There aren't many things that can freak me out when sailing on the Sea of Thieves, but the one thing that is definitely going to get the job done is this. No, you don't understand. It's not like I have anything against this sloop in particular, but it does invoke some rather traumatic experiences inside me. Because you see, as a solo pirate, the sloop is really your only good choice of vessel. And there are few things as terrifying to me as being alone on the sea. Things that I would usually consider a minor inconvenience under normal circumstances can mean certain doom when you're all on your own. I mean, when was the last time my crew and I was struggling to deal with a megalodon or a skelly crew? But being hit by a cursed cannonball while your ship already resembles Swiss cheese more than a boat ranks an 8 out of 10 when it comes to stress levels. Or imagine losing a 1v1 to a boarder. You're already freaking out about your ship sinking while on the ferry of the damned, and now you also have to worry about somebody waiting to shoot you in the back as soon as you return to it. And all of these are things I don't often worry about. When sailing on a brigantine or a galleon, you know that you have manpower to spare, and as such, I'm usually fairly relaxed, even while in combat. For all of these reasons, I don't usually make the decision to sail out all on my own. But the thing is, as the only European in my group, I have a tendency of getting up much earlier than my North American crewmates. And it just so happened that during one fateful morning, I found an active Fort of the Damned that I simply couldn't let slip. Of course, when I made that decision, I had no idea where this endeavor would take me. Sea of Thieves would be turning into a survival game for more than one reason, so I hope you guys are ready for the first solo adventure in my book of stories. Welcome to the Sea of Tales. Try as I might, I can convince myself that setting sail all on my own was a good idea. I know I shouldn't be relying on a lifeline as much as I am, but fact of the matter is that pirating is much more fun when you do it with a group of friends. But Lord knows that I wouldn't be alone for long, because there were a lot of vessels on the sea that I could already spot from the outpost, and I had to assume that all of them saw the giant skull in the sky as vividly as me. I sailed all throughout the day into the night, stuck between the judgmental glare of Flameheart and the anxiety-inducing idea of heisting FoTD all on my own. As much as I engage in the PvP side of things more than the PvE variety, I have defeated the Fort of the Damned a number of times myself, giving me a good idea for how long it should take them to do so. The only problem is that, for some reason, it takes your average pirate much longer to complete these events than they realistically should. As such, I found myself sailing for a very long time before finally seeing the skull disappear, indicating that, at long last, they will be done. As I closed the distance and approached the island, I decided to climb onto my crow's nest to see what I would have to handle, and piercing the thick mist of the ford, I could spot a lonely brigantine. Again, under normal circumstances, this isn't something I would worry about. Having the surprise factor on your side can allow you to easily win unfavorable encounters, such as boarding the ship of a 3-man crew all on your own. But the closer I got, the more my heart began to race. I couldn't help but feel like I had only one shot at this. There was no way I could assume that they didn't see me roll up at some point, meaning that if I end up eliminated, chances are they would sink my ship in no time at all. It all began as soon as I set foot on the island. I found their ship anchored and currently in the process of harpooning the loot they just acquired, meaning a frontal assault was out of question. I jumped into the water to try a sneaking approach, and from that moment on, my anxiety began to rise. I swam around to the other side of their ship in case the guy did see or hear me jump into the water, and as it turned out, there was a good reason to worry. The moment I grabbed onto the ladder, I was met with the business end of a flintlock. Except... this is the sound of an empty barrel. I tried to seize the opportunity and get on their ship, but immediately found myself shot by an eye of reach before whiffing my blundy shot. I was officially in panic mode. I wanted to set their ship on fire to create some pressure, but at the same time, I heard another bullet whiz past my ear. Of course, I was low on health as well, but before I could even make a wrong decision, a bullet piercing my heart would end this encounter. Man, this was very unlike me. For somebody seeking the thrill of combat on a daily basis, this was definitely a pathetic display. I was fairly certain that all three of them would be on my ship waiting for me to return while burning it to a crisp. But as I returned to my vessel, there was nobody there. Could this actually turn out to work in my favor? If they didn't know that I came here with a ship, which works as a mobile respawn point, and instead assumed that I swam all the way from another island to tuck on them, then maybe they wouldn't expect me to attack them again immediately. My window of opportunity was narrow, meaning I had to hurry up, and rather than trying to sneak again, I would go in guns blazing. You can tell that I caught them by surprise this time, because them bringing a keg on board was the kind of mistake that I needed them to make. Sprinty John must have realized what kind of predicament he was in as he held the keg in his hands, but at last, it would be him who greeted the ferryman. man. My hands were shaking, not in anticipation of all the loot I was about to obtain, but in the fear of finding out how I could still screw this up after having gotten myself into a strong position. I had slain 2 of the 3 gold holders, with the 3rd one returning to resurrect his friends, and while I tried to stop him from doing so, he was a resilient fella that shrugged my blunderbuss off like I just tossed a banana at him. The mistake I made at this point was jumping into the water to try and confirm the kill. Obviously he had eyes on the ship, whereas I lost sight of him, and once again, for some reason, his blunderbuss just ended up being way more deadly than mine. I told you I would find a way to screw this up. I met his friends on the ferry with the damned, and it didn't seem like they were particularly bothered by what I just did to them. After all, their most competent crewmate was still alive, and so far the man was 2 for 1 when it came to fighting me. You'd assume that at this point I would have calmed down a bit considering I successfully sunk their ship, but quite contrary to that, I was even more anxious. It was now obvious to them that my ship was nearby, and clearly they still left enough kegs at the fort to blow it to smithereens, which really begs the question of why I thought it was a good idea to bring my vessel around. If I recall correctly, I was worried about the loot sinking to the bottom of the ocean, but clearly I didn't put enough thought into the possibility of them having more kegs, one of which I saw Sprinty John bring onto the island, to which I answered by trying to snipe him with a blunderbuss.
Oh, what was I thinking?
John must have been a part-time magician because he somehow managed to escape my gaze. I mean, I legitimately had and still have no idea how he could just walk a keg past me without me seeing him at all. If by now you have not grasped onto the fact that I don't make the best decisions under pressure, then the following move is most assuredly going to convince you. As much as I should have connected the dots and assumed he'd bring the keg to my ship, which made his destination and my target more than obvious, I decided to jump into the water to, well, save the Athena chest. Listen guys, I have more cash than I know what to do with, which really is a testament to the fact that there isn't a lot of cool stuff I find worth buying, more than a statement about my general wealth. It would take way too long to sell all of that loot on my own anyway, so just grabbing the one item I really cared about doesn't seem like that bad of an idea. But it would have been handy to still have my ship to transport it to the nearest outpost, which by then John had already blown to pieces. At that point I was committed to that chest of legends. The only way to still come out victorious was by swimming it all the way to another island, grab a new ship, and pick it up before that brigantine realized what happened. But if you think that the hardest part is already over, then, well, you're in for a surprise. For any of you who try to swim long distances on the Sea of Thieves, you'll know about the inherent dangers that await you in the waters. I obviously did not plan for things to end up like this, so to say that I was ill-prepared for such a challenge would be an understatement. With a limited amount of bullets, a limited amount of food, and a limited amount of sanity left at my disposal, I had to find a way to make it to the next island before ending up in a shark's belly. The problem was that I didn't know that there was another ship already anchored at said island. I mean, honestly, what better option did I have? I didn't have the means to turn around and take the chest someplace else, which means that enemy sloop or not, Kirk's Hollow would be my destination. I left the Athena chest in the bush before scouting the island and honestly found it hard to believe just how unlucky I could be. I mean, sure, you can make the argument that losing to John was purely my own fault, but come on, this was the first time that I tried to heist the Fort of the Damned all on my own. I was nervous. Either way, I found a keg with these guys' names on it, and really, the goal wasn't even necessarily to kill them, but if I can sink their ship, they'd feel inclined to mermaid away to get a new one, and that would give me the time I needed to bring my own ship back for the Athena. At the same time, I was worried that if they blew me up with it before I could get to their ship, they'd have all the time in the world to accidentally stumble upon what I tried to hide. I had decided that staying alive was more important than force sending it down mid, and as such, the survival game portion of our story began. I was off to a great start, being able to replenish my food supply using some fruit I found in a barrel. The next issue I had to tackle was ammunition. I wouldn't be able to take these guys on with only a couple bullets in my pocket. Unfortunately for me, the ammo box was being protected by a snake, and considering the fact that I didn't have a sword on me, I couldn't help but make some noise when killing it. As much as that gave away my position, at last I'd have some ammo to actually fight. And fight I did, but not the opposing crew. And what ended up being the worst timing ever, a bunch of skeletons showed up to make this even more difficult for me. Now I don't know if these guys on the sloop were the smartest or the luckiest pirates on the sea, but they had anchored their vessel in a position that actually put them out of range of the stationary cannon. Well, there goes my advantage. And before I knew it, one of the two guys had already made it all the way to the peak, putting me in quite a difficult situation. Even if I shoot him on sight, there's no telling where his friend is or how competent he is. Really, the best option for me would be to try and talk this out. And in an odd twist of fate, the skeletons actually end up working in my favor. It allowed me to establish myself as a good guy, and I found out that these guys just wanted to mind their own business while on a voyage. I decided to spare the second one a visit as well, assuming he would still be on the ship, and unsurprisingly, he tried to fend me off like I was a real boarder. But I had a short conversation with them as well, and I gotta say, both of them seemed like really chill dudes. Of course, I didn't tell them anything about the hidden chest I left behind, and instead swam out with the nearest mermaid to try and come back before they stumbled upon it. The map that they showed me didn't have any treasure hidden anywhere near my chest of legends, which was good to know, but that does mean that there's no way they could find it. And as I made my way back to Crook's Hollow, at last somebody woke up. Birdie had awoken just in time to ensure that I could stop shaking in my boots. Even just one additional crewmate on board would help me regain my confidence and hopefully start making better decisions. We arrived back at Crook's Hollow with no sign of that other sloop, which definitely gave me reason to worry. But thankfully, the chest of legends was exactly where I left it, allowing me to let out a sigh of relief. This was the one item that I went through all of this effort for, from fighting that other crew, losing my ship, fending off sharks, and trying to survive on an island. Everything led up to this very moment. I actually spotted that Brigantine of gold hoarders on our way to the next outpost, but not only was there no way for them to know that we had their Athena chest, they also wouldn't be able to stop us from selling it. And that is all she wrote. Birdie woke up just to get some free Athena reputation, and as for me, my greatest solo adventure finally came to an end. Which, honestly, probably wasn't that great of an adventure to many of you, but to me it was rather stressful. And hey, if you stuck around to the end of the story, then thank you so much for your time. If you enjoyed what you have seen, then do consider letting me know by dropping me a like on your way out, subscribe if you want to see more, and definitely hit that bell icon to not miss out on my next upload. I hope you guys have a day filled with riches on the sea, and until next time, peace!